Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heat, and Air. Once again, with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. And I'm sitting here in my home office this morning, and Rosalie's doing the same thing. So, hi, Rosalie. So Rosalie Brown's our
Hi.
producer, and she's sitting in her home office as well. And we're living the 2024 kind of lifestyle of working from home when we can. So yeah, and I've been doing that more and more often because my job has kind of morphed into more of a not so much a day to day management, but more of a micromanage the board from afar. That's what I was doing all morning this morning, and trying to talk to the managers about how to deal with things. But anyway, that wasn't what we were going to talk about, because the crazy thing that's happened is that weather we had last weekend. So last Sunday was just nuts. And I know you went through it down in LA. I mean, you didn't personally because you're pretty safe and a big
Housed.
and housed, and you're not living on a hill in Malibu or where was the one place that got hit pretty hard? I can't remember, like
It's the Hollywood Hills, maybe. I
Hollywood
don't.
Hills. Yeah.
Mhm.
Or a house came crashing down. And I know in Nevada County, I saw a lot of damage. I know it's Tuesday today. And I know quite a few friends got the notice that they would be getting power back on the 8th. And I don't know if they've actually gotten power back. And I know one friend had gosh, that tree must have been like 24 inches in diameter, uprooted and crashed into her garage, took out her power pole, took out her generator, took out her tool shed, just did a bunch of damage onto her house. That was the only one that I saw on Facebook of my friends that had any significant damage, but other than power outage. But that was a scary one because that had it been, moved over another couple of feet, could have taken her garage out, possibly, and if it went the other way, it would have gone right on top of her house. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been crazy. So we thought we'd kind of, and we may as well just get right into it because, I mean, that's been the topic of the county as of late. I know it's just been nuts. When we thought we'd talk about emergency preparedness, and I know it's kind of late, but, this is an El Nino year, and the ground's saturated, and we're bound to get a couple more atmospheric rivers coming through to the state. Don't know where it's going to hit, but things to be aware of, and you want to be prepared, especially in our rural community where services don't come right back, unlike some of the cities, and you could be without power. I know you and I both lived without power one year for, was it like 2-3 weeks? I can't remember. It's been so long
It
ago now.
was it was a nightmare. It
Yeah.
was at least 11 days, maybe longer for me.
Yeah, and unable to get off Banner Mountain because all the roads were impacted for days on days. All the
Yeah,
oak trees came down, and I know we lost power. We actually lost our power line, came down because of a big limb coming down, and
mine too.
the line from the pole to our house. Yeah, and that was across the county. It was nuts.
So when my power line came down, what was interesting is that mine was in the backyard and all the other houses on my street were connected in a different way. And so the power company kept arguing with me
Right.
about my stuff was on. And I was like, please come by my house and step inside where it's 39 degrees and tell
Yeah.
me that my power is back. And they
Yeah.
had to go in the backyard, and then they saw, oh, whoops, that thing covered in snow, that looks like that was your, and I was like, gee, you think
Yeah,
so?
that's it.
I
Yeah.
I remember being very frustrated that year, but I know anywhere that you live with a lot of potential for snow and also lots of trees, wind, right, is your biggest
Yeah.
fear, and the soaking of the
And
ground.
that's pretty much
We
everywhere in Nevada County. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I was lucky in the fact that the winds for Los Angeles, my part, remember we talked about this, there's all these
Yeah.
ecosystems. Where I live right by Griffith Park, the winds were only like 16 to 17 miles an hour. So I didn't have any of that. We do have some areas of flooding. My street was closed last night, but I mean, I'm not in danger. There's people that are really in perilous conditions. So hopefully we can bounce back quickly, because there will be, like you said, another storm. And
Yeah.
so the
I mean, it's only
point of
February. the beginning of February, so we're due
We got
for
plenty of time.
plenty.
And so so we thought like some of this stuff is going to be common sense to you, but there might be some pieces in here because we are getting to talk to a plumber, professional electrical guy, professional HVAC guy here, that there might be some additional things to focus on. Or, Andrew, as we're going through this, you might think about like, oh, I wish I had done this
Right.
when I was without power. So
Yeah.
let's just
We
go
got a
ahead and
list,
jump into it.
and talking about being on a weird grid. I know our house in Grass Valley, we have the same thing. We get that all the time because we're on Butler Road, but our power doesn't come from that grid. It comes from behind us. And we're kind of this isolated little area. And they'll say we've got power and we don't, or they'll say we don't have power and we do. Same sort of thing. It's yeah, just depends on your grid. But anyway, yeah. So some of the things you can do, like, so we did we searched for some, you searched for some lists. I did the proverbial we, our producer, Rosalie, got a nice list together. And one of the key things is obviously, lighting, right? You don't want to be in a house that has no lights. When you have no power, you have no lights. So make sure you keep your flashlights handy, battery operated lanterns. They say candles. If you can avoid candles because I can't tell you how many times I read about people's houses catching fire from candles. With LED light bulbs these days on our flashlights and rechargeable flashlights, there's no reason that you shouldn't have some flashlights around that are going to be good. And the LED light bulbs use so little power that a lantern. I know I've got a lantern in our house, an LED lantern. I think I bought batteries for them about 5 or 6 years ago, and that's what we use during emergencies, and it's still functioning. I mean, it's got D cells, so they last for an hour, right? But I think we could leave that on for like a week, and the batteries would still be good. So, make sure you get some quality flashlights, some quality batteries, and make sure you're prepared. This is the big one. So we're just going to lead right into, we talk about lighting, but let's talk about generators. Generators are one of those things that, most people in our area have some form of electrical generation, right? Whether it's a standby generator or a portable. Portables are great. They're inexpensive. They're relatively easy to use. You do have to run extension cords throughout the house, but there are some safety things that you want to be aware of. One of the main things is it is an engine, so it spews out carbon monoxide. So you don't want to be running this in your garage. I can't express that enough. I know you want to keep it sheltered, but if you put it in the garage, even with the door open, you have that potential for getting carbon monoxide into the house. And you may not realize it until it's too late. Unfortunately, even if you have carbon monoxide carbon monoxide detectors really only tell you when it's at a really dangerous level. So you may be being exposed to carbon monoxide at lower levels and not even realize it. So if you do run a portable generator, put it outside beyond an open door. And if you have to put a shelter around it, get an easy up or something like that and stick it over it. You can get an easy up for, full 8-foot easy up at most of the places for under $100 these days. I think they're like $60 or $70. If you want to protect it, do not leave it in your garage. The other thing that comes up a lot of times is, they say, if you have a generator, ensure it's in good working order. So turn that thing on every once in a while. Don't just leave it and expect it to start running when you actually need it. Especially with the fuels that we have these days. I mean, they say stock up on fuel for your generator. One of the problems that we have with the fuels that we have these days is there's ethanol in it, and it attracts water. So fuel is really only good for about, they say, 3 to 6 months for non-ethanol fuel, 1 to 3 months for ethanol fuel. And when you buy that fuel, if you're not buying it from a gas station that has a big turnover, that fuel could be in that tank for a month, and it's on the verge of going bad anyway. So you can't go by just your purchase date. So you want to make sure that you don't store fuel for a long time, and don't store fuel inside your generator. I know I've had situations where I've forgotten to run the generator carburetor dry of fuel, and then gone to start it the next year, and the carburetor's all gummed up, and I have to take it apart and clean it out and stuff. So, make sure that thing is working. And I kind of went off on a tangent there, but double check and make sure that your generator is working. You probably already done that at this point, but if you haven't, do that again. If you are stocking up on fuel, remember that you got a life, or the life expectancy of the fuel is finite. So don't stock up on too much. I know I used to have a 5-gallon jug in my garage all the time. I stopped doing that because it was going bad too quickly. So I started going with a little 2.5 gallons and only putting like a gallon in it. Also, you can get fuel stabilizers, which will help, but you still have the ethanol in there, so it can still attract some water. So you'll have the water issue. So you don't want to store it for very long. It's kind of weird because you think it's a petroleum product, it should last forever, but it doesn't. And then, like I said before, test the generator periodically. If you don't want to go through all this stuff, you can call us at 530-230-9092 and get a quote. And I'll say that number again, 530-230-9092, and get a quote for a standby generator. That thing pretty much, it runs itself every month, and make sure that it's running, and make sure that it's functioning. And then if you have to have it serviced every year by checking the oil and checking everything else in it. But you won't even notice other than a split second as the generator jumps on, you won't even notice your power going out. One of the things that people talk about, having a portable generator, and if you've got a well, what do you do about that? Most wells are 220. Most generators do not supply 220 unless you've got a 220 generator. I know I do at my house that takes care of our well. But if it's a portable generator, they're usually 110. So it's hard to run your well. So stock up on water. You might want to make sure, I know we've always got, about 10 gallons of water jugs in our house just in case. Even though we do have the generator to take care of the well, I still, I'm kind of a nut, and I like to make sure I can take care of my family kind of thing. So I'll store 10 gallons of water, and you can just, that's $1, it's $10, $10 for 10 gallons of water. Just find some place to store it. Along with generators, though, I'm going to kind of go down. They didn't even talk about this, and this is something that I'm a big proponent of right now, is the batteries. The battery, they call them solar generators or battery backups. They come in a little box. They've got an inverter on there. They've got lithium batteries, and they've gotten ridiculously inexpensive. I've got a 1,000-watt one that I think I spent $2,000 on about 5 or 6 years ago, and they're down to about $1 a watt. So you can get like a little 500-watt one for $500, or a 1,000-watt one. Actually, I think the 2,000-watt one's about $1,000 now. So it might even be under $1 a watt. And what I've done with those is I still use a portable. We've never put in a whole house generator, even though I install them. Cobbler's kids kind of thing. Cobbler's kids have no shoes. What I found, what's really cool with these batteries, is I can run my refrigerator for days on this thing. I can run all my lights. It's pure sine wave, so all my electronics are protected. It's not a modified sine wave, and what that is modified. So you'll have some generators that have a modified sine wave, which are really angular, and they're kind of hard on sensitive electronic devices like your computers, your TVs, even your refrigerator and your toaster these days, because they all have little CPUs in them. They have a nice clean sine wave. It's not angular. So they're incredible. They work really great. I leave mine charged up 100% all the time. You plug it in when you got power. When the power does go out, what I'll do is I will run everything off the battery. And then when the battery starts to get low, I'll start my generator and charge the battery bank. And so I'm not running the generator constantly, saving on fuel and noise and just pain in the rear end, trying to make sure the generator's going. The other thing I found is when it goes dead, I've used it for RVing and camping. I'll plug it in to the back of my truck and a drive, depending on how far down, if I'm down 20%, like an hour drive, we'll charge it right back up. So, if you've got one of these, you could almost forego having a regular generator if you plan on going out. But if you do need a little generator, like we have a little 2,000-watt generator that I run for our house stuff, and then I've got a big 220 5,000 watt for the well house, and we just run that to fill the well and then turn it off. You can pretty much get away with just those things, and you can do that for like $2,000 for those two things, $2,500, $3,000 at the tops. So anyway, those are kind of some of the things that I've done, and not a lot of people talk about those batteries, but they work really great. And I know I was talking to my doctor because they were having problems with some of their vaccines going bad. And I'm like, you can get these battery backups and plug in your refrigerator and just keep it plugged into the wall, and it's ready to go whenever the power goes out. And you don't have to install a big, huge, expensive generator for your refrigerator, So something to think about. This is something that you want to do when the power goes out. Unplug all your appliances. When the power comes back on, you'll sometimes experience a power spike, and it can fry your sensitive electronic equipment. I know I lost a TV one time, and I know a customer of ours they had a lightning strike, and it wiped out their entire house of all their electronics. I mean, from their refrigerator to their computer to their TV. We had just put a water softener in, it blew out the board on the water softener. Those sort of things. So unplug them. That's your best bet. Another option, again, I'm going to, I own a plumbing, electrical, heating, and air company. You can reach us at 530-230-9092. We put in whole house surge protectors. So in the event that the power comes on and you do get a surge, it will protect your entire home, as opposed to the little hardware store ones that will protect the things that are plugged into it. It will protect everything in your entire house, and highly, highly recommend, especially with these days, with everything having a little computer in it, from your toaster, your refrigerator, your coffee maker, obviously your computer, your TVs, all those things. And even some of our lighting these days have little computers in them. If you've got a smart house. So, having a surge protector is becoming less and less a luxury and more a necessity. So we install whole house surge protectors. So in the event that we do have power outage, unplug all your appliances, because when that power comes back on, you don't want to have that power spike and take out, you don't want to have to replace your TV or something else, or your computer. Then they talk about surge protectors, install surge protectors for sensitive electronic damages. We kind of talked about that. Emergency power source. Consider having a portable power bank for charging essential devices. You can even get, for those of you on TV, you can get like these little battery backups. I know this one is a 2,400 milliamp battery that I use for traveling. I keep this thing charged and handy all the time, so it can charge up and it's just a little, it's the size of a cell phone, and I can charge my laptop. I think I can charge my laptop only, but I can charge my iPad and my phone. My phone, I can get about 3 or 4 charges out of this. So, and they've gotten ridiculously inexpensive too. They're under $100. So I use these things like crazy for traveling, and just to have them around for charging any essential devices like your phone, your radio, your iPad. They're USB too, so you can run everything. These days, most everything's running on USBs. I've got 2 studio lights on me right now. They're both on USB. I got a speaker next to me. It's USB. Your router a lot of times are USB these days, so you can run a lot. You can actually run your house, your electronic stuff, off the USB small battery bank. We got more time. Refrigeration considerations. Limit opening the refrigerator and freezer to preserve the cold inside. Consider using a cooler with ice packs. So hopefully at this point, you've got some ice packs that you've kept frozen. Like I always keep about 4 or 5 ice packs in my freezer just for said situations. And I've heard it described as every time you open the door, it's kind of like picturing it. If your refrigerator was full of sand, and use sand as an analogy for cold, you open the door and a lot of the sand rolls out. And so that cold is literally spilling out. And when you close it, it's only going to stay at the temperature that all the items are inside there. So, and every time you open it, more and more of that cold just pours out. So limit the amount of time that you open it. But again, you can use a battery backup to run it, or you can use a cooler. And, this time of year, I mean, the wintertime, I know our last time around, we put a lot of our stuff just outside in the snow when we live on a Banner Mountain, and that keeps things cold. So, and took snow and put it in our coolers for stuff inside the house. That's one way around keeping things cold. What do we got here? Communication plan. Establish a communication plan with your family members or neighbors in case of extended power outages. That, fortunately with cell phones, that's not too bad of a problem. But I know, like when we were living on Banner, our cell would go out because unfortunately they don't have battery backups in a lot of the cell towers, and that hasn't been mandated in our area yet. I know there's been talk of that. They'd have little portable generators that would run, and then it would run for a little while, and then we'd lose cell. So make sure your family and friends know that you're okay. And then, like our situation when we were living on top of Banner, when we were both living at different places on Banner, we couldn't get out. So there's a potential for family members not being able to get home. And if you can't figure out a way of communicating with them, how would they know that they can't get home or that they're okay? How would you know that they're okay or that you're okay? So get some kind of plan together. Have a phone tree, see about neighbors. And that's another thing too. Check on your neighbors, make sure they're okay. So I know we've got a lot of elderly people in our community, and you want to make sure that they're going to be safe and warm. And we'll kind of run through a real quickie things at the end here. Have a secondary source of heat. I know you only had like a little buddy heater, but that'll at least heat up a room, right? Some sort of heat source. If you don't have a wood burning fireplace, fortunately most of us do in the area, or even a gas burning propane wood stove or natural gas wood stove. That's what we had we've got right now. Have some way of heating your place, because like you said, what did your house get to that time?
39.
39
degrees.
I mean, that's just freaking brutal. And you couldn't even leave to go to a hotel. Nope. So, we were stuck up there. All the arteries were clogged with trees. If those of you that remember or were in the area, I can't remember what year that was. Do you remember what year that was?
Oh my gosh. 2000, somewhere between 2010, like 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while, but oh my God, it's just indelibly etched into my memory. It was.
Why do I live in Los Angeles? Why do I live in Los Angeles?
That's why we moved off Banner Mountain. That's why we live close to town now. And I'll be honest, our power outages are a lot shorter than when we lived up on top of Banner.
For sure.
And our internet works way more often than it did up there. Cell works better. Also, I've got 3 ways out of my house, as opposed to when I lived on Banner, where I had 1, and then it forked off at Banner and Idaho, Maryland, and Banner. And that was it, right? Well, unless you went the back way down to Red Dog or Red Dog Cross. But our long road, that was it. And I know there was trees down on our road. Some big ones. So anyway, hopefully some of this has helped you. If you've got any questions about wanting to have a backup generator installed, automatic backup generator, give us a call, 530-230-9092, or a whole house surge protector. We can come out and give you a quote on that. 530-230-9092. You can also reach us for a $49 water heater flush and plumbing safety inspection, a $49 house inspection. If your power has gone off, you might want to have us come out and take a look at your electrical system, because you might have had a surge and you didn't even know it. $49. HVAC, $49 safety inspection. And we also have the $97 drain cleaning, any residential drain cleaning with a accessible clean out. If we can't clear it, it's free. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye. Stay safe.
You did great. It kept cutting in and out, but you were captured.
Yeah. Mine didn't.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Mine didn't.